Mr. Jonathan Carlyle was a man who carried himself like someone used to being in control of everything. He was tall, sharply dressed in a tailored navy suit, and his polished shoes clicked softly against the marble floor as he led his daughter through the streets of downtown. Despite all his wealth and power, there was one thing he never tried to control: his daughter Lily. She was 10 years old, bright-eyed, and had been born mute, which made her a special and delicate presence in his life. Her silence was not sadness, it was a quiet strength, a way of seeing the world differently, and Jonathan had learned to read every small sign of her emotions, from the way her eyebrows lifted to the way her fingers twitched when she was excited. Today, he had decided to take her to a small cafe he had never visited before. It was the kind of cafe that didn't advertise itself, a hidden spot tucked between a bookstore and a flower shop. The kind of place that smelled like fresh coffee and pastries the moment you walked in. It was cozy and inviting, with warm wooden tables and chairs, soft light filtering through wide windows, and the gentle hum of conversation in the background. Jonathan liked it already, even before stepping inside. Lily walked beside him, holding his hand lightly. She always liked being close to him, especially when in a new place. Her dark hair bounced slightly as she walked, and her small frame seemed almost fragile next to her father's strong presence. She glanced at the street signs, the people walking by, and the colorful displays in shop windows. She had a sense of wonder that Jonathan admired, a curiosity that was rare in children, especially those who had to navigate a world that didn't always make room for them. As they entered the cafe, the bell above the door jingled softly. The aroma of roasted coffee beans and freshly baked pastries wrapped around them like a warm blanket. Jonathan held the door for Lily and smiled down at her, showing his approval. Lily responded with a small nod, her eyes shining with excitement. This was one of the few times she could simply enjoy being in public without her father constantly worrying about her safety or comfort. The cafe was moderately busy, with a few patrons scattered across the tables. Some were reading books, others were tapping away on laptops, and a small group in the corner was chatting quietly. The atmosphere was calm but lively in a gentle way. Jonathan led Lily to a corner table near a window. It was a perfect spot, giving them a view of the street outside while keeping them slightly separated from the other guests. Lily slid into her chair and adjusted herself, her small hands brushing the edge of the table. She had a routine: whenever they went out she always carried a small notebook and pencil with her, ready to write down anything she wanted to say. Jonathan had encouraged it from the start. They had developed a silent language of understanding, gestures, and written words, but he had always hoped she would feel comfortable expressing herself in any way she could. Jonathan pulled out his own tablet from his briefcase. He wasn't a man who often relaxed in public, and work followed him everywhere. But today, he had promised himself he would put it aside. Today was about Lily, not deals, not meetings, not the endless world of his business empire. He looked at her and noticed how her eyes followed the movement of the sun across the window, noticing details he might have missed: a tiny bird perched on a street lamp, a dog tugging on its leash, a mother holding her child's hand. A waiter approached their table, a young woman with a bright smile. She introduced herself as Amara. Her voice was friendly, casual, and warm. She had a confidence that immediately put them at ease, and there was something gentle about the way she moved. Jonathan noticed it immediately, the kind of professional grace that came naturally to some people. He had seen countless employees in his companies, trained in excellence, but there was something more in her presence. "Hello. Welcome to our cafe," she said. Jonathan nodded politely and smiled, while Lily observed quietly. Lily's eyes were drawn to Amara's hands. She noticed how expressive they were, moving in a way that seemed familiar yet different from what she usually saw. Lily's hands hovered over her notebook, ready to write her order, but she paused, curious. Amara tilted her head slightly and began to use her hands to communicate. She was signing in American Sign Language, fingers moving gracefully, forming words that Lily could understand immediately. "Hello, sweetie. What would you like to have today?" the signs asked. Lily's eyes widened in surprise. She had never seen a stranger use sign language to communicate with her before. Jonathan's breath caught in his throat. He froze for a moment, unsure how to react. Seeing Amara communicate with Lily in a language his daughter used every day at home was unexpected. He was not unkind, but he had been away from the world of children's education and disability advocacy for too long. It had never occurred to him that someone outside their family could reach Lily in this way so effortlessly. Lily's small hands responded almost immediately, signing back to Amara. Her movements were confident, precise, and full of life. Jonathan watched, captivated by the scene unfolding before him. He had never felt quite like this before, not in a boardroom, not in negotiations, not in the endless cycle of corporate triumphs. Here was someone who could speak directly to his daughter's heart without uttering a single word of sound. Amara's eyes lit up, and she smiled even wider. She continued to sign, asking playful questions, gesturing to the pastries on display, and making small jokes that made Lily's hands dance across the air as she replied. Jonathan watched, trying to comprehend the depth of this connection. He realized that this simple act signing was doing what all his money and power could never accomplish. It was making his daughter feel understood, accepted, and free. Time seemed to slow down for Jonathan. He noticed the little things he often overlooked: the tilt of Lily's head when she was curious, the sparkle in her eyes when she laughed silently, the gentle way Amara leaned in to ensure Lily could see every sign clearly. He realized that wealth could buy comfort, security, and luxury, but understanding, patience, and genuine human connection could not be bought. He glanced around the cafe, observing the other patrons. Some were quietly noticing the interaction, smiling to themselves. Others were focused on their own conversations, but the warmth of the moment seemed to fill the space subtly, like sunlight entering through the windows. Jonathan felt a rare pang of humility. He had always been in control, always making decisions that affected thousands of people, yet here, in this cafe, he was witnessing something beyond his influence. Lily continued to communicate with Amara, her small hands moving with ease and joy. Jonathan felt a lump in his throat as he watched. He wanted to say something, but no words could capture the amazement and gratitude he felt. For the first time in a long time, he simply watched. He let the moment exist without trying to manage it, control it, or direct it. He realized that sometimes, the most powerful experiences were the ones you could not plan. He noticed the subtle expressions on Amara's face: the patience, the attentiveness, the joy she took in communicating. She treated Lily like a person fully capable of expressing herself, not as someone limited by her inability to speak. Jonathan had seen people underestimate children and those with disabilities countless times. Seeing someone treat Lily with respect, patience, and warmth touched him deeply. As they settled into the cafe, Jonathan took a mental note. He would return here. He would allow Lily to experience this connection again and again. He had always sought perfection in his work, in his public image, and even in how he parented Lily. But today, he realized perfection was not about control or achievement. It was about moments like this, rare glimpses of genuine understanding and human kindness. The sunlight shifted slightly through the window, illuminating the table where Lily and Amara were communicating. Jonathan noticed the tiny details: the way Lily's fingers moved when she laughed silently, the gentle, fluid motion of Amara's hands as she replied, the soft hum of the cafe around them. Everything seemed sharper, brighter, more alive. Jonathan leaned back in his chair, his hands folded on the table, and simply watched. He felt a mix of emotions: gratitude, awe, humility, and a quiet joy he had rarely experienced. This cafe, this encounter, this young woman who could sign, she had opened a small door to a world he had always wanted for his daughter, one where she could be herself completely, without barriers or limits. Lily, unaware of the weight her interaction carried, smiled widely, her hands moving confidently to express her choices and preferences. Jonathan's heart swelled. He realized that the cafe, the strangers, the world outside his controlled office and boardroom, this was a place full of possibilities, of connection, of life beyond contracts, meetings, and wealth. For the first time in a long time, he felt completely present. He knew that today would be a memory he and Lily would carry forever. And he knew, deep down, that moments like this were rare, beautiful, and more valuable than anything money could ever buy. Amara stood in front of their table, smiling warmly, her hands moving smoothly and confidently. Jonathan watched, still slightly stunned, as his daughter responded to her in sign language. It was a quiet magic, seeing a stranger understand Lily instantly, almost as if they had shared a secret language all their lives. Jonathan, who was usually composed and unshakable, felt a strange mixture of pride, relief, and awe. Pride for his daughter, who navigated the world with grace despite being mute, relief that someone else could communicate with her, and awe at the connection unfolding before him. "Would you like to try the chocolate croissant or the blueberry muffin?" Amara signed, her hands flowing gracefully in the air, almost like a dance. Lily's eyes widened, and a small smile crept onto her face. She signed back quickly, pointing excitedly to the chocolate croissant, then to a glass of fresh orange juice. Jonathan watched every motion carefully, feeling like a proud father but also a silent observer of something he hadn't expected. He cleared his throat softly, trying to speak, but found he didn't need to. The conversation between Lily and Amara continued effortlessly. Jonathan realized that sometimes words could get in the way of true understanding, and here was proof. Lily was animated, her small hands moving rapidly as she signed, her face lighting up with joy. Amara responded with gentle movements, her own expressions full of warmth and patience. They were talking, laughing, and sharing a connection that Jonathan could only witness from a slight distance. He looked around the cafe briefly, noticing that other patrons were beginning to take notice. Some smiled quietly, others exchanged knowing glances, and a few whispered softly to their companions. But no one intruded. The moment felt intimate, like a small bubble of warmth in the middle of the busy cafe. Jonathan felt a deep gratitude toward Amara, who had stepped into that moment without hesitation, willing to bridge a gap that so many ignored. Lily's small hands moved faster now, signing something that made Amara laugh softly. Jonathan caught only a glimpse, but he could see the joy on both their faces. It was rare to see his daughter so expressive in public. Usually, she reserved her signs for home, for people she knew well, and for the moments when she felt safe. But something about Amara's presence, her gentle encouragement, made Lily feel completely comfortable. Jonathan realized that trust, even in strangers, could bloom when met with patience and understanding. "Do you come here often?" Jonathan finally asked quietly, still observing the interaction. Amara glanced at him, her hands still in motion, and smiled. She shook her head slightly, then signed to Lily something that made her giggle. Jonathan had learned some sign language over the years, enough to understand small phrases and expressions. He caught the gist of what she said, that she loved working at the cafe and meeting different people, and that she always tried to make each guest feel welcome. Jonathan nodded, impressed. He had met thousands of employees in his life, some brilliant, some charming, some efficient. But Amara had something different. She wasn't just performing a job, she was creating moments, small bridges of connection that made people feel seen. He realized that this was something no amount of training or management could teach. This was hard. Lily's eyes sparkled as she continued signing. She asked Amara about the pastries, pointing to the display case with curiosity and excitement. Jonathan watched, realizing that this simple question, this moment of shared enthusiasm, was something he had longed to see more often in public settings. He had taken his daughter to restaurants before, to coffee shops, and even to family gatherings, but she often stayed quiet, unsure how to connect with strangers. Today was different. Today, she was thriving. Amara nodded and signed back, describing the pastries, their flavors, and even playfully guessing which one Lily might like the most. Jonathan could see the trust growing between them. His daughter's movements were confident, her smiles frequent, and her laughter silent but radiant. He felt a swelling emotion in his chest, a combination of pride, relief, and awe at witnessing this rare bond form so quickly. Jonathan realized that he had underestimated the importance of this interaction. He had always focused on providing his daughter with the best education, the best experiences, and the best environment. But he hadn't fully appreciated how much a simple act of recognition from someone else, a stranger, could impact her so deeply. He watched as Amara's hands moved gracefully, her face animated, and her eyes warm. She wasn't just helping Lily, she was giving her a gift, a space where she could communicate freely without hesitation or fear. He thought about the countless times Lily had tried to express herself in places where no one understood her. The times she had been ignored, overlooked, or dismissed. And now, here she was, laughing, animated, fully engaged, because someone had taken the time to learn a language most people avoided. Jonathan felt a deep sense of gratitude. He made a mental note to return to this cafe, to encourage Lily's confidence, and to thank Amara properly. As the conversation continued, Jonathan noticed the subtle details of their interaction. Amara's eyebrows would lift slightly when she emphasized something, her fingers moved in delicate, precise motions, and she even used small facial expressions to convey humor and curiosity. Lily mirrored some of the expressions, copying them naturally, and Jonathan realized that this was more than just a simple transaction of food orders. It was a moment of connection, of learning, of joy. He looked at his daughter and thought about the world she would grow into. A world that often overlooked those who were different. A world that rarely paused to communicate in ways beyond spoken words. Today, though, she had found someone who understood her, who met her where she was, and who made her feel included. Jonathan felt a quiet hope rise within him, a hope that his daughter's future could be filled with people like Amara, people who saw, understood, and respected her. The waiter moved to another table briefly, allowing Jonathan and Lily a private moment. Lily leaned slightly toward her father, signing something quickly. Jonathan caught her words, "She understands me." His chest tightened. Yes, she did. And Jonathan felt an unspoken gratitude not just toward Amara, but toward life for giving his daughter this small but powerful gift of understanding. He reached for his coffee cup, taking a slow sip, trying to calm the flood of emotions. He had been in countless situations in his life that demanded composure, decisions, and control. But none of those moments compared to this one. Here, he was not controlling anything, he was simply witnessing. And what he was witnessing was pure, unfiltered joy and communication, a reminder that sometimes the simplest things, like someone taking the time to learn sign language, could create the most profound moments. The cafe was quiet again, with the soft hum of conversation and the occasional clatter of cups. Jonathan noticed that people were stealing glances at the table where his daughter and Amara communicated. No one interrupted, but their curiosity was visible. He felt a protective urge, not to shield Lily from the world, but to ensure that the magic of this moment remained uninterrupted. Lily continued to sign, her fingers moving faster now, asking questions about the different drinks and pastries, pointing, gesturing, and laughing silently. Jonathan watched closely, amazed at how effortlessly she connected with Amara. Her previous hesitations in public seemed to vanish, replaced by a new confidence. Jonathan realized that this experience was teaching him something as well. He had always believed that success and preparation were the most important parts of life. Now he understood that connection, patience, and empathy could be just as powerful. Amara responded to every question with care, her signs clear, expressive, and patient. She took the time to describe each pastry in detail, her hands moving in a rhythm that captivated both Lily and Jonathan. Jonathan found himself leaning slightly forward, not because he had questions, but because he wanted to see every small gesture, every movement, every smile. He wanted to remember it, to carry this memory with him, as a reminder of what true understanding looked like. For a brief moment, Jonathan's mind wandered to his own childhood. He had been a child of wealth, but he had rarely experienced patience or understanding from strangers. Everything had been about performance, appearance, and meeting expectations. Watching Lily and Amara interact, he realized how different life could be when kindness and attention were present. It was a lesson he hadn't known he needed, a reminder that sometimes the greatest teachers were not in boardrooms or offices, but in simple moments of human connection. Finally, Amara completed the conversation and signed a few closing gestures to confirm Lily's order. Lily nodded happily, her hands falling to the table, satisfied. Jonathan exhaled slowly, feeling a mixture of relief and joy. The connection had been real, meaningful, and transformative in a small but profound way. He realized that this cafe, this encounter, and this young woman had given his daughter a gift far beyond pastries and drinks. They had given her understanding, respect, and recognition. Jonathan knew he would not forget this day. He would remember the way Lily's eyes sparkled, the way Amara's hands moved, and the quiet magic of a connection that needed no words. It was a moment of pure humanity, a reminder that the world could be gentle, patient, and full of empathy. And he silently promised himself that he would seek more moments like this for Lily, moments that would help her thrive, connect, and feel fully seen. After their orders were taken, Jonathan decided it was the perfect moment to step a little closer to Amara. He wanted to express his gratitude, not just for serving them, but for the way she had connected with Lily. Her presence had created a sense of ease and happiness that Jonathan rarely saw in public spaces. He approached the counter with a polite smile, trying to make his voice calm and friendly, though he still felt the unusual flutter of nerves. "Excuse me," he said softly. "I just want to thank you. You really made her day." Amara turned toward him, her face lighting up with a gentle smile. She signed something to Lily first, who looked back at her father and nodded enthusiastically. Then Amara shifted her attention to Jonathan, signing slowly, as if she sensed his curiosity about the world of sign language. She expressed that helping Lily communicate had been a joy, not a task. Her sincerity was clear, and Jonathan felt a warmth spread through him. Jonathan realized how rare it was to meet someone who understood the importance of patience and empathy. In his world, boardrooms, meetings, and deadlines, people often overlook small gestures. But here, Amara was different. She didn't rush, she didn't judge, and she didn't see Lily's silence as a limitation. Instead, she embraced it as an opportunity to connect. Jonathan felt a deep respect growing for her, not just as a cafe employee, but as a person of genuine kindness. Lily, noticing the conversation, bounced slightly in her chair, eager to participate. She signed rapidly to Amara, pointing at Jonathan and then back at herself. Jonathan smiled, catching only fragments of the exchange, but he understood the essence. Lily wanted to know if Amara could teach her more signs, something beyond ordering pastries or drinks. Amara's eyes softened, and she nodded affirmatively. She signed back, suggesting that they could practice small lessons while waiting for their order. Jonathan's heart swelled with pride. He had always known that his daughter was intelligent, curious, and capable, but seeing someone encourage her in public filled him with a sense of validation. This wasn't just about learning language, it was about confidence, trust, and human connection. For Jonathan, witnessing this was almost as meaningful as watching Lily take her first steps or her first day at school. As they moved to a quiet corner of the cafe, Jonathan pulled out a small notebook and pen from his briefcase. It was something he carried for work, but now he saw it as a tool for bridging a different kind of communication. He handed it to Lily, encouraging her to write down anything she wanted to share. Lily's small hands grasped the notebook eagerly. She scribbled a few words and signs she wanted to practice, then looked up at Amara with hopeful eyes. Amara leaned over, her movements fluid and careful, guiding Lily's hands as she practiced signing each letter and word. Jonathan watched quietly, feeling a mix of relief and admiration. He had often worried about whether Lily would feel isolated in a world that rarely stopped to understand her. Now, he saw that with the right encouragement and attention, she could flourish. Amara's gentle teaching style brought out Lily's natural curiosity and joy. The cafe's atmosphere seemed to shift around them. Other customers continued with their conversations, but a few stole glances at the trio. There was something captivating about the scene, a father quietly observing, a daughter eagerly learning, and a young woman guiding her with patience and warmth. Jonathan sensed that even without words, the connection between them told a story of respect, care, and understanding. Amara noticed Jonathan's watchful eyes and offered him a small gesture of inclusion. She signed to Lily a question about whether she wanted Jonathan to try a sign too. Lily's eyes lit up, and she nodded eagerly. Jonathan laughed softly, feeling a little awkward but willing to try. Amara guided his hand slowly, showing him the motions of a few simple signs. At first, Jonathan's movements were stiff, uncertain, and clumsy, but with gentle corrections and encouragement from Amara, he began to get the rhythm and flow. Lily clapped her hands silently, beaming with excitement. Jonathan felt a strange thrill. This was not a business deal, a presentation, or a meeting. This was human connection, pure and simple. He realized that communication went beyond words, beyond status, beyond everything he usually measured. Here, he was simply a father, a guide, and a participant in a magical moment of learning and bonding. As the minutes passed, Lily's confidence grew. She began to form longer sentences, asking questions, and responding with increasing ease. Amara matched her energy, providing clear signs, nodding, and even using playful expressions to make the learning fun. Jonathan noticed that Lily's face was alive with emotion. Her eyes sparkled, her lips curved into silent laughter, and her entire posture radiated engagement. It was a side of his daughter he hadn't often seen in public. Jonathan reflected on the power of small moments. In business, he had always measured success in figures, deals, and influence. But here, in a cafe with pastries and orange juice, success looked different. It was in smiles, in trust, in the excitement of learning, and in the quiet bond forming between two people who truly saw his daughter. He felt a profound sense of gratitude for Amara, who had created this opportunity without expectation or reward. Their pastries arrived just as Lily attempted a more complex phrase. Amara helped her, showing subtle movements that corrected the flow of the signs. Lily mimicked them, her eyes wide with concentration and joy. Jonathan watched every gesture, silently cheering for his daughter's progress. Amara's encouragement was constant, never rushed, never impatient. Jonathan realized that this kind of teaching, full of respect and attention, was rare. He felt a quiet admiration for her patience and natural ability to connect. After finishing their snacks, Lily leaned back in her chair, satisfied. She signed a quick thank you to Amara, who responded with a warm smile and a nod. Jonathan felt a deep sense of relief. This connection had gone perfectly. He could see that his daughter felt empowered, understood, and happy. He also knew that this experience had given him a new perspective on communication, patience, and empathy. Jonathan decided to speak directly to Amara now. "You have a real gift," he said softly. "Not just in sign language, but in the way you make people feel comfortable, seen, and understood. I can't thank you enough for how you treated Lily today." Amara smiled and signed something back, emphasizing that helping others communicate brought her happiness. Jonathan realized that sometimes, teaching and connecting were more rewarding than any material success. Lily, still brimming with energy, asked to continue practicing while they waited for Jonathan's coffee refill. Amara agreed, showing her a few more words and phrases. Jonathan watched them interact, realizing that these moments of learning and laughter would stay with Lily forever. They were small, simple interactions, but they had a lasting impact. He silently promised himself that he would find more experiences like this for his daughter, nurturing her confidence and social skills in every possible way. Time passed quickly, and Jonathan felt a gentle contentment settle over him. He observed the way Lily's eyes followed Amara's hands, the subtle smiles they exchanged, and the laughter that needed no sound. He felt proud, not just of Lily, but of the small miracle of connection that had unfolded before him. It reminded him that the world could be kind, understanding, and patient, if only people took the time to engage meaningfully. Finally, it was time to leave. Lily waved goodbye to Amara, signing her thanks one more time. Amara responded with a warm gesture, encouraging Lily to continue practicing and reminding her to visit again. Jonathan felt a deep gratitude as he held Lily's hand, guiding her gently toward the exit. He realized that moments like these were rare gifts, experiences that could shape confidence, trust, and happiness for years to come. As they walked out of the cafe, Jonathan reflected on the entire encounter. He thought about Amara's patience, Lily's joy, and the quiet lessons he had learned about connection, empathy, and human kindness. He felt that this day had not just been special for his daughter, but transformative for him as well. It had reminded him that life's most meaningful experiences often came from small, genuine interactions, moments of understanding, patience, and shared joy. Jonathan knew that he would carry this memory for a long time. The image of his daughter laughing silently, her hands moving with confidence, and Amara's gentle guidance would remain with him forever. It was a reminder that the world could be a better place when people chose to engage with empathy and patience, and that the smallest gestures could leave the biggest impact. As they left the cafe, Jonathan squeezed Lily's hand gently, smiling down at her. "You did amazing today," he said softly, proud and emotional. Lily's eyes sparkled, and she signed back, "We did it together." Jonathan realized that she was right. They had shared this moment as a family, strengthened by the kindness and understanding of a stranger who had chosen to see them, hear them, and connect with them. The day felt brighter as they stepped into the sunlight. Jonathan felt a renewed sense of hope for the future, a sense that small, meaningful connections could change lives, build confidence, and create lasting memories. He knew that this was just the beginning of many experiences like this for his daughter, and he was determined to support her every step of the days after the cafe incident felt different for Jonathan and Lily. There was a lightness in their routine that hadn't existed before. Every morning, as they walked to school, Lily would excitedly sign little phrases to Jonathan, practicing words she had learned from Amara. Jonathan tried his best to keep up, mimicking the gestures with clumsy movements at first, but gradually improving. He noticed how proud Lily became whenever he got a sign right. Each small success gave her more confidence, and it made him feel a sense of accomplishment he hadn't realized he was missing. Jonathan couldn't stop thinking about Amara. Her kindness and patience had left a lasting impression on both him and Lily. He wondered if she realized the impact she had made. Her actions had not only made a day in a cafe memorable but had given Lily a boost in self-esteem, and that was priceless. Jonathan decided that he wanted to ensure this wasn't a one-time encounter. He made a mental note to return to the cafe soon and perhaps even invite Amara to help with some small classes for children who needed guidance in communication. One afternoon, Jonathan received a phone call from the cafe. He answered quickly, curious. On the other end, a cheerful voice greeted him, signing as well as speaking slowly so that he could understand. It was Amara. She wanted to know if Lily would like to come to the cafe one day after school for a small practice session. Jonathan felt a surge of happiness and immediately agreed. He could tell that Amara genuinely cared about Lily's growth, and he wanted to support that in every way possible. When the day finally came, Jonathan picked up Lily and walked to the cafe. As soon as they entered, Amara greeted them warmly, her face lighting up in recognition. Lily ran ahead, waving excitedly, and Jonathan followed more slowly, soaking in the atmosphere. The cafe had a cozy corner with low tables and soft chairs, perfect for a small learning session. Amara had even brought some simple visual aids cards with letters, pictures, and words to help make the learning fun and interactive. The session began with laughter and curiosity. Amara introduced a few new signs, showing Lily how to combine letters to form simple words and then small sentences. Lily copied her movements carefully, her brow furrowed in concentration, but her eyes sparkled with joy. Jonathan observed quietly, feeling a sense of pride and amazement. He had always known his daughter was intelligent and curious, but seeing her absorb knowledge with such excitement in a real-world setting was different from any classroom experience. Amara noticed Jonathan's watchful gaze and invited him to participate again. This time, she encouraged him to try forming sentences with Lily, guiding his hands and correcting him gently. At first, Jonathan felt awkward, unsure of the precise movements, but Amara's encouragement was patient and kind. Slowly, he began to get the rhythm, forming words and phrases that Lily could understand. Each small success made Lily clap her hands silently, and Jonathan laughed along, realizing how fulfilling this experience was for both of them. During a break, Amara handed Lily a small notebook and colored pencils. She suggested that Lily draw pictures of her favorite things and then attempt to write the corresponding words in sign language beside them. Lily's creativity flourished immediately. She drew her favorite animals, her school, and even a small picture of Jonathan, smiling as she added signs next to each drawing. Jonathan watched in awe, impressed by her ability to combine art, language, and expression. Amara's approach was gentle but effective, allowing Lily to learn naturally and without pressure. Jonathan took a moment to reflect. In his fast-paced life, surrounded by corporate meetings and responsibilities, he rarely had the chance to slow down and appreciate the small moments. But here, with Lily and Amara, he realized that these moments of connection and learning were far more meaningful than any business success. He felt a quiet gratitude for Amara, not just for teaching Lily, but for reminding him of the importance of patience, empathy, and presence. As the session continued, Lily became more confident. She attempted longer sentences, asking questions about the signs she didn't know and repeating them until she got them right. Amara's guidance was constant, gentle corrections paired with praise. Jonathan noticed that Lily's energy had shifted. She was no longer hesitant or cautious. She was proud of herself, eager to show progress, and excited to learn more.